fuck that shit. Listen, ayy, look, cash flowing, pockets growing, wake up, bless every morning. Just in case y'all didn't notice, I'm the fucking shit up in this bitch and everybody knows it. Cash flowing, pockets growing, wake up, bless every morning.
Hey guys, welcome back to What's the Situation? Today I have my mom. She thinks that she's in the WITSET program, so here she is.
I'm protecting my privacy. Thank you very much.
No, like they cannot look who Sydney Jarrell's mother is, okay? But we had to get her to agree to come onto the podcast today and talk about love just in a general. We're going to be talking about first loves, crazy dating stories, all of that stuff. And we're going to phone in probably one of her best friends since what, middle school?
Yep. 7th grade.
Okay, but to get her to come on, there had to be an alias. So we got her a wig, the birthday girl glasses, the GB hat. So here she is. So no one look her up on any social media or she will die. Okay. So
I'm a private person.
Painfully private. I don't even know how I'm your child sometimes. Okay. So let's see. Okay. Let's go into the situation room. Did you see what was going on with one of your favorite people, J-Lo and Ben Affleck, and how J-Lo feels betrayed by Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner's sexy clinch?
Well, J-Lo's gross. She only
topic.
She only cares about what she looks like in public, I feel.
Okay.
And I don't like Ben Affleck either.
Jennifer Garner, don't want to like lick his Phoenix tattoo on his back?
No, I hate him. He's a horrible actor and he's just a gross person. Jennifer Garner is a fucking angel. And I don't know
fucking angel?
I don't know why she's with him.
I'm not sure what's going on, but it looked like a crotch grab to me.
That is
I don't know. It was
disturbing.
Kind of strange. I feel like you and Catherine really know so much about that one woman who catfished that man. And where did she go? Remember the girl who goes to Pakistan.
I forget her name.
Tell the short story.
She is 36 years old, I believe. And she catfished a 19-year-old who lived in Pakistan. And when she got there, he realized how old she was, but she refused to leave. And he said, no, thank you. And she refused to leave. So she put up a tent.
Did she catfish him with like a different picture? Because
I don't know if she did that or with filters. I'm not quite sure on that whole story.
I'm not sure if you guys have seen this woman, but unless there was a completely different picture, there was like the age was the least of the concerns of that situation.
The eyebrows, the talcum powder, her attitude, but she was fun to watch.
She doubled down on that. She said, "I'm not leaving unless I get $20,000 per week."
And my bodyguard too.
But I love Catherine because she'll come to the store. And she's like, "I'm not leaving unless I get $20,000 a week."
And I need $100,000 to clean up Pakistan because it's dirty here. I don't like it.
But she's not even a citizen there, so it doesn't matter. So they were like, "Literally, please go, woman. We cannot take you anymore." Okay. I feel like we've got like a fun episode. So I feel like we have to get into the next section, which is help me, Sid. What's your situation? We had someone write in and they said, what would you do if you feel a connection and you're dating someone, but it's not a physical or sexual connection, but you felt like you connected with them on every other level?
That's a tough one. I guess it depends on how into sex you are. If you're not into that, then I think that would be fine. That's a hard one.
I think if you're in a relationship and unless you're like asexual, you have to be physically connected. Or
who wrote into that?
It's anonymous. I can't talk about it. I don't give my sources.
I gotta put her on blast.
I am a reputable journalist.
Yeah, I think it really does depend on the person. There's lots of women who don't like to do anything. They would just be happy never having sex again. And I think you go through periods of your life.
Like it's important to her, but she thinks that it's,
okay. Well, yeah,
that she feels like there's so many other things that check the box. Like he is a great partner. She could see him like being husband material in every other way. Some people are like, oh, just wait. Like maybe you'll feel that attraction.
Well, it kind of depends on how long it's been too. I mean, is this like a long-term relationship, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 6 months, 3 months? Okay. So that kind of,
it's hard to find a decent person or decent partner. So it's like, sometimes you're like, oh, what do I trade off?
And you can't really keep your hands off of somebody when you first meet them. So that's odd, you know? I mean, well, I can't. I don't know. Whoopsie. I mean, in my youth, not now.
In her youth.
I've got a broken hips. So I'm not doing anything right now.
I am dead. Have you ever dated anybody who you've not been attracted to, like physically?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Like for a very short period of time. And
like
it was
how long?
It was like a month or two.
A month
But
or two?
I liked his personality so much, and so did you.
I did.
And I'm
like,
not going to mention
I already
any
know
names.
who it is, and he was an angel.
Yeah,
he was an angel.
He was really
so
sweet. And I wanted to like him so bad, but I just had no chemistry with him.
You like all these fucking losers, and this little angel dude who treats you like a princess.
Yeah.
And I never understood that until I got older, and I was like,
yeah, there's been a couple of guys that have been like that. That they're so sweet and so nice, but I just didn't have any physical attraction to them or chemistry even, really.
I feel like I've dated some people afterwards where I got out of a toxic relationship that I was like, okay, let me go for the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even say anything. But even Mom's been like, Sydney, you could do better.
And when I tell you could do better, yikes. I'll just say yikes.
They were sweet. They were nice. They were very like, doting, but maybe not the right fit. But I think when you're like going out of a toxic relationship, you're also trying to like find like the opposite of that person.
Exactly.
So I was like, oh, well, toxic usually is like, you're not usually going for ugly toxic people.
You
usually
want hot toxic. You want the hot bad boy. Well, kind of bad boy. Bad boy with 401k.
If I could have some stability, please, that would be lovely. Just a little bit. Is your portfolio diversified, or what are we talking about here?
We should call up some of your exes.
That should be a whole nother episode in itself.
Oh boy.
Well, let's get into this. So let's leave. I think you got your answer. I just personally feel, we'll wrap this one up. I personally feel like if you don't have a physical connection or, attraction to that person, long term, it's probably not going to last. You're going to end up being their best friend or their friend. And then like, if they are obviously like wanting to have sex and physical attraction and connection, then they're going to feel like you don't like them. You don't love them. It's just going to go downhill. And then what happens is you spend 8 years in that spiral relationship where they cheat on you with an accountant from Austin. We're going to have to cut all of this out. Okay. So now going into...
Why do we have to cut that out?
No, that's a whole nother topic. We can revisit it later. Let's go into Situation Unfiltered. So this episode is really all about love, first loves, funny dating stories, horror stories, all that. So speaking of first loves, which one of my boyfriends was your favorite?
That's really hard to say. I mean, at the time there was one,
you got to use a fake name.
Scatum.
You were on the top for a while there, buddy.
I thought he was a good person. I thought he treated you well. And I didn't realize what a lying piece of shit he was. I didn't realize that.
Shocked. I thought if I gave her a microphone, she'd be like, beep, beep, beep.
Well, I'm trying to be.
You don't have to. This is a podcast. So which one of my exes was your favorite? You said about the Adam, the outside of Adam or Shadow. I think it was probably Smook.
No, I'm not catching that one.
Book.
Oh, okay. I had to think about that for a minute. Okay. You should have just said
4 fucking letters.
I had to think about that for a minute. Well, I liked his personality. He had a good personality, but he is very anxiety ridden.
Yeah, that dissolved in a very rapid way.
Yeah. He was just
wasn't it?
I mean,
Mom a couple of weeks ago. I just really care about you, and I need him to know that I'm here for him. And this is when she wasn't feeling good, okay? So at like 3 p.m. in the afternoon, I'm at work. I get texts that's like, I feel like I just need to get through to him. She would send him videos.
Well, I feel like he has
a problem. Yeah.
And a little puff. Hang on. Can I just be like Snoop and during interviews? But with a jewel.
Yeah.
Who was your first love?
Well, should we call Anne? Is Anne available?
Yeah, me too.
Anne is my mom's best friend.
Should you call or should I call?
I'll call.
Okay. I just told her. So she's going to a different room in an undisclosed location.
Hi.
Hello, you're currently on What's the Situation?
Thank you.
We're talking about first loves.
Mhm.
I was trying to get Mom to talk about her first love and like how she fell in love with my father, which I always think is a
Daddy. I think we should talk about Big Walt Daddy.
I do too. But my first love wasn't your dad. I had the biggest crush on Mike Andrews. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh God, he killed somebody in a vehicular manslaughter. So he's not somebody you really want to be around anymore.
He had a mail truck Jeep.
Yes,
He
he did.
Sweet.
He did. And we had a pound of
wait,
his
like
pot.
hold on. Like an actual USPS mail
It was an
truck.
old USPS
Yeah.
mail truck. Mm.
The steering wheel was on the left.
Yes, it was.
Who the hell were
Yeah.
y'all hanging out with?
Yeah. He was hot. He was
Yeah.
oh, he was really hot.
Yeah. And then there was Walt.
Yeah, and I met him when my mother came down here for vacation for 2 weeks.
Hold on. Let's listen to this story, ladies and gentlemen.
And
to all children out there, this is not how you pick your future child's father, okay?
to be fair, we had taken some no-dos because me and Ann were in summer school because we refused to do homework and stuff. And
again, this is
so she stayed over the whole 2 weeks that he was there. And I don't know how we met him. I don't remember how we met him. But I was 15 or 16 and he was 21.
which, if you go to my story of dissolving friendships, you will know that no 21-year-old should be hanging out with anybody less than 20.
Yeah. But I do remember we were at my house. There was a ton of people there, and he held his breath until he passed out.
It is a fucking miracle that I have turned out in the slightest normal
And I
sense.
thought, wow.
That's the one.
That's the one, I guess. It's embarrassing now to think about it.
Did you know that story, Ann?
Parts of it.
She was there. And then we got kicked out. We got kicked out because his friend slept on my neighbor's porch. I don't know if you recall that. Johnny Spellman?
I don't know. Maybe my no-dos hadn't kicked in yet. I don't recall that.
A lot of things happened during those 2 weeks.
Who was your first love, Ann?
You know, I've loved them all, Sydney.
I gotcha. You've loved them all.
Yeah.
That's a nice, easy answer.
Well, you know, when you're a kid, you think you're in love. When you're dating,
Yeah,
think you're
you
in
do.
love.
And sometimes
Aren't
it's
we all
not
in
love.
love?
Sometimes it's just extreme infatuation, maybe a stalker situation, whatever.
Yeah. Never in love with your stalkers.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Well, okay, one.
Dave.
Dave, definitely.
It's Schmave for viewers out there for legal
Yeah,
reasons.
we're not-
All of this is
Well, he's dead
Yeah.
now, so you don't have to worry about that.
good.
We'll just call him Dead Dave. I didn't do it on the record. For the record, on the record, off the record.
R.I.P.
He had a heart attack mowing his lawn.
What a terrible way to go. That's why I don't do your own lawn care. I think my lawn guy, what's his name? I don't know, but this is a plug for him right up here.
So who do you think was your most intense love, Anne?
Dave was great. You know, I thought that
He was a
He
really
was so
good
great. He stalked her. And he was just
But he was a fun guy. He was a nice guy. He was good to her. Well, if he wasn't like using your debit card without
you know, he had a little con in him.
Yeah. He was a guy.
he was a bad boy.
Just a little.
Yeah.
But you know, I've loved everyone for different reasons. And
Yeah.
you know, what's that reason and where did that get me? You know, and you
Yeah.
grow from everything. You know?
You do.
And I could say my daughter's father because I had her.
Yep.
I could say that. I'm not gonna.
Which is also another funny story. There's so many funny stories with that
Yeah.
one. I feel like my first true love was Jesse.
Yeah, I would probably say that was
Yeah.
Jesse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we all know how that ended.
Yeah. He
In
got
the
caught
clink.
up in little meth and guns. Like, I don't know why you think you're so much better than me. Like,
Listen, I ended that relationship because I knew it was not going. But to be fair, he was not always like that.
No.
He devolved into that. Okay, so there I was. What, 18? Yeah, 18. I broke it off for like what, 20?
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
because I was like, I'm not going down this again, knowing when to call it quits with friendships and relationships.
but he was a good guy. He was very loyal. You don't find a lot of loyal people anymore, and I think that is so important. I know you think that I maybe go overboard with that, but
you do a
if
little
you
bit.
don't have somebody who will have your back during every situation, and is loyal to you and you can trust, you don't have anything.
Well, I agree, but like the choice wasn't the like man who was going to the federal penitentiary.
No,
either.
and I'm not saying you should stay with somebody just because they're loyal if they're getting arrested for selling guns and meth.
Who knew? He was always very supportive of me and wanted me to achieve more.
He did.
And we always had a really close relationship.
It actually
And
makes
then
me a little sad to think about how he turned out.
I know. But we always kept up with each other every 5 years or whatever. Like you check in, and then I Googled him and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
As long as you're not feeding his commentary, or what is that called when you know the
commissary?
Commissary, right.
Putting money on his books.
You can get your Nesquik today, baby.
Your honey bun.
Right. Sending him love letters.
You know, honestly, based off the men that I've been like seeing, it's not the worst plan.
Yeah.
At least you know.
Scenario.
Yeah.
Right.
Honestly.
At least you don't have to cook and clean up after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. He lives in a gated community. You know where he is all the time.
He writes you love letters every day.
I'll never forget when I like looked him up on Google and it like popped up with like one, but like the first time I looked him up, I was like, oh, I wonder what, I think maybe you were like, oh, what's Jesse up to? Or, and so I looked him up and I was like, oh, okay. Like it was like some more Sons of Anarchy. Like
his hair had gotten long. He used to be preppy.
He had to go. So he was like a baseball player, really preppy, super like clean cut. But then I looked him up a couple of years later and he had the Sons of Anarchy where he like had, it was still short hair, but he had a goatee.
And that was a serious deal. He got arrested with 30 some people. It was like,
not at that one. That one was like something not as serious. The next one was like a news article and they have 30 people in the ring. I was like, what the fuck? And I went through all the pictures and I'm like, I didn't even see him. I had to go back through another time because he had long hair. And it didn't even look like
he looked like the little Dutch boy.
You should state that this was well after you broke up.
Yes, it was.
It was. I mean, it was like a decade after, like what, 15 years after. Yeah. I mean, I was like 30. He was like what, 21 when I dated him. Yeah. Cause he was 3 years older than me.
It was like you dated him like from 2007 to 2009 or 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like 18 till 20, almost 21.
Well, you two are just dying to be on Dateline right now.
We are. I mean, we've got a lot of things going on with their family too.
Mom would be like, let's go visit him in the penitentiary.
And
I'm like,
always wanted to go to a jail to see what it was like. And I mean, he doesn't really have a lot of people in his life that would visit him. So why not?
Well, you and Catherine, they were like, come on, let's go.
I know. Well, Catherine's up for anything.
He was in a prison. So he actually reached out to me, like maybe a couple months ago and was just like, hey, checking up on you, see how you doing. Because he friended me. And I was like, oh, I'm good. He's like, oh, just wanted to let you know I went away to prison. I was like, oh, I know. And he's like, how did you know? I was like, Google. But I always thought of Malibu Most Wanted when I thought of Jesse. Malibu. You're not a hardened criminal, but he did it. Right. Well, we don't want to bother you too long, so we'll let you go. Well, we love you.
I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. What did you like about Dad?
He was like the life of the party. He was very cute. I mean,
he was a cute,
He looked like a cross between Kurt Cobain and Leonardo DiCaprio. He was super funny. He was just fun to be around.
Okay, so what's your craziest dating story?
Oh God, Dawn's gonna be watching this.
There's gonna be lots of people watching this.
I know, but family watching it is a little different.
I think literally out of everybody, Dawn would be the least shocked of any of these.
I was dating your dad. I had already, I mean, we weren't dating, we lived together and things were kind of rocky. He had cheated on me and I was like over the whole thing. So we used to go to this bar on Camp Road in Hamburg and they had karaoke there. And I probably went there for like months. And there was this guy there who had a beard, which a lot of people weren't wearing beards back then, you know, but he was one of the
Really?
hottest guys. You didn't see a lot of guys in nicely trimmed beards.
I guess so, because that was
It
probably
was like more of a goatee thing back then.
Yeah, now thinking about it, I
Yeah.
can see that tracking.
And he was like 6'3", 6'4", really a good looking guy. And he stared me down every single time we were there. I mean, like, I can't remember how it happened, but one night I just left there. We got into a fight and I'm like, fuck yeah. And I left and I started walking and he came up. We went to his house.
Oh no. Which always starts off good. Go to some random man's
What had
house.
happened was
What had happened?
and things got a little steamy.
Well, steamy.
And he was wearing a purple banana hammock.
Shut the
I'm not
fuck
kidding.
up.
I'm not kidding you at all. And I literally ran out of the house. I swear to God on a Bible, I ran out of the house.
Did you go,
I was like, oh my God, like it totally grossed me out so much that I just ran out of the house. I had never seen that because by then guys were wearing boxers and stuff. I've never seen a guy in tighty whities really, but it was so gross to me and so like, ugh, God, like why would you?
I wonder if that was his normal attire. Did he change and like?
No, it was on underneath his clothes. Like he was wearing that. It was his underwear.
Was that like a popular thing in the
No,
90s?
I've never seen anybody to this day. I mean, unless you live in Europe or something like that, but it was the grossest thing I've ever witnessed in my entire life. And I never, like, I saw him again and he told me what I did was really rude and it was rude,
Yeah.
but, I can't. I just can't.
I'm sorry. I was shocked. I was traumatized.
I got another one.
Okay, go for it.
You had told me you wanted me to sign up for, I can't remember.
I do remember this. Okay.
You're like, oh, you should sign up for, I can't remember what it was exactly, what dating site it was.
I think it was like Match.com.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. Reference. Okay. When I was 17, 18, mom was 37, 38.
Mm.
I'm 35 right now. So just a couple years older than I am right now.
I met this guy and we'll call him Screg. Great job. Nice guy. He was so sexually deviant. Just deviant.
Didn't he wax his asshole?
Yes, he waxed his asshole and bleached his asshole.
He's probably still on Tinder.
He was waiting for some things to happen that night, and let's just say they didn't. But I've never gotten so many dick pics in my whole life. It's like, do you really think a woman wants a picture of your penis? Like they would write me, hey, you're a cutie, blah, blah, blah. And then just send me a picture of a dick pic. I didn't ask for it.
How's the weather going? What are you doing on this Sunday stroll?
And I just don't know why guys would ever think that would be.
Men think that that's like what women want, which is always so shocking to me. Yeah. Like,
it's gross.
No, it's
and
disgusting.
I was traumatized. I never wanted to go meet anybody again. Like I just thought, and it happened so frequently where people were like sending me stuff like that. And like their first message was like, oh, I want to do this too. And I'm like, oh my God.
So when I first started dating Adam, he had messaged me on like one of the dating apps and was like, hey, I think it was OkCupid because there weren't a lot back in the day. So it was like, hey, can I take you out for a drink? I was like, sure. He's like, okay, do you want to go to Rum Runners? Oliver, if you're seeing this, like him and I were like breaking up at the time, but still talking. And I was like, I don't really like Rum Runners. Meanwhile, I spent every damn day at Rum Runners. Anytime like we'd be like, Oliver, put us on the list. So he's like, what about Kathmandu's? He went to state at the time. So I was like, okay. And I had a friend working there. But so like you'd meet, you'd do all that. That was like my extent to like dating. Then I got engaged and we were together for like 7-8 years. So I had a very small window on like a dating app. It wasn't like popular back then. And then going back in after divorce, that was a real shocker. Yeah. That was traumatized. There was a lot going on during that. So then I went through, I'm going to just date and just have fun. And I dated Duke for a little bit, casually. Do you remember the story when I worked over at the apartments in Durham? And I was supposed to go to dinner with this one guy and then to that jazz bar, Sea Grace downtown. So it was supposed to be like a classy, dinner, but I got caught up at work. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm not going to be able to meet you at dinner because I have to take care of this leak. And so he's like, that's so fine. Like, meet me at Sea Grace. And it was raining this one day. So I didn't have enough time to like grab dinner and I hadn't eaten the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
So I had gone from having a drink after work and like, okay, like let me have a drink and then I'll go meet him. And then we went to Sea Grace where I just had dirty martinis and I was feeling fine.
I know what you're going. Okay. There we go. This is fucking hysterical.
So
not
we go
funny.
to Sea Grace. It's a very classy establishment, like jazz speakeasy place. I have a couple of dirty martinis there. He's like, do you want to go somewhere else? I'm like, sure. We go to Coglin's, which was like a 90s bar on Fayetteville Street. And they had like the best music, like Salt and Pepper and all of the ones that you want to dance to. And it was just retro, neon. And so they used to have these plastic 90s throwback water bottles, but you could get like girly drinks in them. And I never really liked the fruity drinks. So I was like, I really want one of those. But I'm like, I don't like the drinks that they have in there. And he's like, well, what do you like? I'm like, I don't know, vodka tonic. So he got me a vodka tonic, except for I don't know who the bartender was that night. And this isn't a shocker because the bar's not open anymore under that name. But whatever it was, there was like probably 5 shots in there.
Wow.
And usually I was thinking maybe
he roofied you.
No, I don't, because I remember enough. I remember enough to know that that's not what had happened. So anyway, I drank this, and I didn't even drink all of it. Then we go to another bar, and obviously haven't eaten the whole day. And I just looked at him. We're waiting in the line for Lucky Bees. I was like, he's like, I really like you. I was like, I like you too. He's like, but I was like, I don't like your shirt. I ripped his shirt off of him. It was a button down, and I just ripped it down.
Where is he now? Poor guy.
I don't know.
He must have been horrified. He's like, who is this crazy bitch?
He was like, his face, he's like, did you just rip my shirt off? I was like, yeah, I don't like it. We need to get you a new one.
Wow.
And we went into Lucky Bees after that.
He went in with a ripped shirt?
He did. He contacted.
Did he have a jacket? Or
yeah, I mean, it was a button down. He had a undershirt underneath it. Like he was business professional.
Okay. All right. Okay.
He was business professional.
Lucky you.
And let me preface this. This was right during the height of my divorce. Okay.
You had a little anger.
I had a lot of anger, a lot of drinks. Yeah. I was just going out to have fun. I was doing it for the plot is what I like to call it. Okay. I didn't think I was going to see him again. I don't know if I did see him again, but he did text me this.
No.
Well, which I thought, oh, for sure I fucked this one up. And he was a nice enough guy. He was like sarcastic. So I like that, but then the next morning I woke up and like when you wake up in a panic
with
and
total
you're like,
regret and you feel like so embarrassed and you want to die, your stomach flips out.
I mean, I was like a little embarrassed. I wasn't like,
yeah, I would have died.
I was just like, oh my gosh, I ripped this $100 shirt. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like I will pay you back. Let me, make it up.
What did he say?
He said that literally was the most exciting night of my life. He said, do you want to go on another date?
Wow.
I tried to explain to him, like, I hadn't eaten. Usually I'm not somebody who can't hold, like, I'm not out there like, like getting shit-faced and not able to handle my liquor or anything. But I was like, I'm so sorry. He's like, no. He's like, that was the most thrilling night of my life. He said, would you like to go out on a second date?
I remember you dated a guy that you really liked and he had to move to Florida. He got a job in Florida. You really liked him. He was really nice. I can't remember his name. And maybe doesn't go on the show, but it just made me remember that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that motherfucker was a gaslighter, though.
Do you?
I do. Maybe.
Because didn't he send you like flowers and everything?
Okay.
That's a little too much sometimes. And I didn't think about that then, but
the whole thing was just really weird. That was when I worked over at the apartments again. James. His name was James. And we went on this like amazing first night. The next day I get into my office at work and there's flowers there with this like, thank you so much for the most amazing night that I've ever had. Like we literally went out for drinks and just talked until the sun came up and just had like a good time, like a genuinely like wholesome time. Yeah. He came over and dropped like everybody in the office, like coffee order. And then took me out to like lunch the next day.
He was doing too much.
Then we went out to dinner.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, I've got to move. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know. There was more to it than that.
Yeah,
but
he was married. We didn't have.
I don't think
that
he was married because I
Facebook
did a background check. Not a background, but if I'm going to go out on a date with you, I'm going to make sure I'm not like going to get murdered at. Well,
are we dating the same guy? First of all, that's the first.
Well, that just came about in the last couple of years. So now,
and I love that. I will sit up at night and just read that because that's the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, unless the guy that you're dating is on it.
It surprises me how stupid women are.
I hate to say that, but yeah.
Oh, God. It's embarrassing.
I think this is what I'll say. I think men treat women very poorly. We allow them to treat us poorly.
That's exactly it. And we compete with each other.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, you know what, he is a piece of shit and fuck him, I'm not going to date him either. If we started doing that, had a little solidarity, women are the worst to women. They tear each other down like.
But then the other side is they will be like, well, he didn't like me and he just ended. It's like, that's actually how dating works. Like you can decide at one day you don't like somebody and it's not something crazy.
I would rather have somebody tell me that than lead me on or just ghost me.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever been ghosted.
And as a female, I'm sorry, but I know I've not always ended relationships the best way either. Sometimes you get stuck into situations where you're like, oh, I've done too much. I've built this up. Or maybe you felt that way, but then like you realize like, well, nope, something happens. You get the ick and you're like, I don't feel that way. But it's almost like we're like, well, they don't like us. And they told us that they liked us at one point, but now they don't like us.
So how can you trust anybody?
But I think like for men, how about you just say, at that point, I did like you. You did this. That made me not like you. And that's why we're in this. And then,
that's what surprises me about men because they're supposed to be the stronger sex, the more direct, and they are none of that. I'm not speaking for every man, but I'm speaking for many men.
I'm very direct. Yes. I think that really scares people away.
And I'm like the same ways. And I think you get a lot of that from me. I think you get it from like all the women in
our family are very just direct on things. I'm just more direct. Like if I don't like something, I'm like, hey, I don't like that. I try not to be rude about it, but I'm very direct. I mean, there's so many crazy, that could be an episode in itself of my dating life. I feel like my life is just crazy for like random things happening.
Yeah.
So this week, I like to call this the doing shit for the plot. I just like to live my life and say yes to things. I feel like it's a fun way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lived life where I haven't said yes, and that didn't work out for me. My husband left me for a rolling note for a week. But so now I'm just on the doing it for the plot thing. I've dated the guys who are super straight laced, and then they're sending you pictures of their buttholes.
I know. I'll just tell a quick story. I dated that guy that owned that tattoo shop. He was covered in tattoos. He gave me my first tattoo, so I remember him. He was the nicest, most polite, well-mannered person I've ever. People think that those people are the worst, and they're usually the opposite.
I would agree. But so this past week we had a crazy week. I feel like everybody in our family was like, we're all going to get sick at once.
Yeah.
Our family could have a wing at one of the hospitals.
We've had a rough couple of months. I'll admit that.
It's been a little. It's been a little much, but by Thursday, I got some news that I was not expecting with a close friend of mine that I've been friends with since I was like 17, 18, and then things with our family's health. So it was just a rough week. So I had texted one of my friends. I was like, "We just need to go out." It was Thursday night. And it was just weird. I don't know. The whole thing was weird. Don't you think?
Yeah. It had a weird vibe to it. Yeah. Like the whole, not ominous or anything, but just like how your phone messed up with the Uber and everything. Like that's never happened before.
So I go and I'm starting to get ready for this night. I call my Uber because I'm going to meet my friend downtown at Boxcar, and my Apple Pay wasn't working, and there's nothing wrong with my card. So I was like, but I didn't realize it. And I looked down to see where my Uber was, and it was saying that the ride didn't go through because the card didn't work. So I recalled, I just put my actual card in instead of my Apple Pay, and it called the Uber. Okay. So anyway, They come, it's raining. So I get in the car and I just like spew out everything. I'm like, listen, the week is not going good, okay? My aunt's in the hospital. My best friend of like 20 years has just ended a friendship with me. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, but maybe I'm the issue. But again, I'm telling my whole life story to someone I've known 45 seconds. And so like, you probably think I'm crazy right now. So like that would track. I probably am the issue. And he like looks back in the mirror and he's like, you're not the issue. So like we have like this conversation. I just get that weird like vibe when he looked back in the mirror. I was like, you shouldn't have a connection with an Uber driver that you've probably known for 45 seconds, you know? So we go down and he's driving me to Boxcar and we get there and we just had great conversation. He's like, hey, would you like to carry this conversation inside? Like, can I buy you a drink? And I'm like, now, meanwhile, during this ride, I found out that he is 25 years old. And I'm like, I'm 35 years old. So I'm like, okay. He seems so eager to want to go inside. And I was just meeting a friend. I was like, hey, I'm meeting a friend, like a guy friend inside. If you want to come in and join us, you're more than welcome to. But is that weird?
No, I don't think that's
like
weird.
Inviting somebody in, like,
no.
Okay, but I thought the whole Uber driver, like this man is.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
it's not what would normally happen, but I think that especially with Uber, because you can do it when you want to.
But I was just like, okay, yeah, sure, you can come along. So he drops me off at the front. I go in, meet my friend there. I'm like, listen.
There's a 25-year-old behind me.
There's literally a 25-year-old Uber driver who's coming to follow me inside right now. Just want to let you know we're not alone.
People wouldn't think twice if it was a man and a woman. The man 35 and the woman 25. Nobody would even comment on it. I don't see the big deal at all. I understand how you feel.
Well, and at the time though, I didn't even think of it. I was more concerned that I had invited Luis out to console me right now and be my friend and be here drinking with.
It was impromptu.
Yeah.
You couldn't have planned for that.
Yeah. And so then he comes in and it's also singles night there.
That is not the place I would go for singles night.
Anyway, so I'm just getting coins. And then there's this really attractive, like tall blonde guy, which I'm not into blonde guys.
Me neither. Never.
But so then he starts talking to me. But then Luis is like at 11. He's like, I'm going home. I got to wake up to go to the gym in the morning. The blonde guy's like, oh, I'm going over here. If you want to come over. I'm like, okay, well, I've got my friend here. My new Uber friend here. You got my number. And so then that guy leaves and my Uber driver looks over at me and is like, well, finally, now that everyone's gone, can we talk? Like we finally get a chance to talk. But we start talking. This is where I think it starts getting weird. So he was telling me in the Uber, like I kind of told him my story. He was asking me if I was married. I was like, oh, I'm divorced. He told me he was divorced. And I was like, you're 25. Okay. I guess I couldn't like judge since I got a divorce at 28, you know, okay. But he was telling me that he's Mormon or he came from a family of Mormons, which if you know my background, my ex-husband was Mormon. And so then we start talking. I'm like, where did you grow up? And he's like, oh, like my family lives in Garner. And it hits me because my ex-in-laws, they are in the Garner area. There's only one Garner LDS ward.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. A little bit.
But so we just start talking. So I was like, that's weird. But that was Thursday? God, and Friday, he like, it was great to meet you. I'd love to take you on a proper date. I'm like, you're 25. I'm 35. When you were 15, I was 25, birthing my child out. This is kind of weird. I don't know.
But he's not that, like, I get what you mean. If you dated him at 15, when he was 15, that would have been a problem. But now he's not. And what's the difference? Why can a guy do it and nobody says a word and a girl can't? And you look like you're in your 20s. You look like you're in your late 20s.
Yeah.
So I don't see a problem with it. And he actually seems more mature than a lot of guys you've dated. From what I've heard, I've not met him yet.
I think he is very more mature on things. He knows
what he wants.
He has a full-time career. He also does the Ubering thing to save money and just like start his own. He wants to start his own business. He's very direct in how he talks, but he's also very polite. There's just so many great things about him. Yeah.
I mean, and he thinks it's fate.
I do think there's something strange about the situation. And I feel like I've known him for years, but that's going to shake some shit up.
With who?
Just in general.
You've never really given a fuck what we thought before.
I wasn't talking about y'all. That's not true. I take everyone's opinions into account and then I say, no. I'm going to obviously live my life, but it's just weird.
I would say it's very unusual. I think you should see where it goes.
He seems amazing.
Yeah.
But everybody, he could be a murderer in 6 months. I'll keep you all up. So what is your advice for dating?
I always just went on a date to have a good time. I never expected anything out of my dates. I wanted to have a good time.
I agree. I think that's a solid piece of advice. I feel like when you put too much pressure on it,
I never put like expectations on it. Even if I really, really thought I liked the person, I never did. I just went out and had fun, and that was that. And I pulled it in the 90s. I got to say, I mean, things were happening, you know.
Yeah, and then she let all of the good ones go.
I did. It was
that's my piece of advice. Don't let the hot good ones go.
I did. But I don't mind being single because I had a boyfriend at such a young age. I had you.
Yeah.
And then I had a boyfriend like right after that. That was a total opposite. And I really, when I was single, I had a really good time. Me and Anne
tearing up the town.
We tore up the town. We did. But we had a good time together. No matter where we were, we could have the best time in the whole world. And I think it's important to have somebody who tells you the truth.
Surround yourself with people who will tell you the truth about who you're dating.
Or people that tell you the truth about anything.
I agree with the like going out for fun.
Yes.
I think women take things too serious when they're dating. I think what my piece of advice is get ready, have half a glass or half a bottle, half a glass, half a bottle, or if you're me, a full bottle of wine before you go out on a date. But make sure you eat. Okay.
Definitely.
Or you ripping off a Colon button down. Is that Ralph Lauren? Is that a Pashmina?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Okay. Take a drink and chill the fuck out. Okay.
Too many women are so worried about having babies and like finding their husband that they push people away. I feel like because
it's like an interview. Like
yes,
sometimes you just want to have fun, and you know what? Like maybe that's not the man for you. Like the last guy I dated, we went on a couple trips. We had a fun time. Like it wasn't like the end all love connection. Because you really dropped the ball.
Yes, sir, you did.
Another conversation for a different day. Okay. But all I'm saying is sometimes you can just enjoy that moment and have fun, and maybe you connect with that person, maybe you don't.
Do not hold a job interview on a date.
No.
If somebody is wearing purple banana hammock, get the fuck out of Dodge. I think that's the best advice I can give somebody. You don't want any freak in that. You know, like
don't make excuses up. Don't say, oh, maybe he was excited, nervous.
This is his last pair of underwear that was clean, blah, blah, blah. He owns it. That doesn't, if he owns it, it doesn't matter.
Just a no-go. It's just a no-go.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope you at least had a good laugh out of this episode. I love y'all's stories though. Y'all have got some funny stories that I think everybody should hear. But if there's something specific that you'd like to hear even about their life as friends, maybe we can convince them into.
Nobody gives a shit.
I think they would be. I think this is going to be fun. All right, guys. Well, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye.
Bye.
Fuck that shit, listen, ayy, look, cash flowing, pockets growing, wake up, blessed every morning, just in case y'all didn't notice, I'm the fucking shit up in this bitch and everybody knows it.